Yo, Yamao Akwaba strong Kosobio Edeba POG Media. So, Mr. Unsubscribe, ya subscribe, like it, and share. Nema Afufro and so answer and Kabir. Please click on the notification bell so Senabea. Ye the enemies be out of platforms and so I also walk with the echo and the airbar. Ye call a ye Ura MartinAmidu a Asway. Na ya him say Ghana your first special prosecutor era Addo edenema ye aye sa aye ura nunyamfo aye Martin aye Amidu na yinim say yin nso ye dai efri honum ema ne koye bibibie honum na ene odinsem bi abanso ababetudwa na why special prosecutor there na that means unim hawa abayum penning for the corruption and the in and out bia concerning corruption bia no papa enim ho de na odin sembi aba to ya papa say beko na yakwa akotie concerning say how wasimi trust Mahama to prosecute NPP for appointees, especially nipa bi and I say abayum penning for bi to say Ken Oforiata money omo ye de omo ka ho no ene Bawumia mu nyina no waka omo ho nsema yenko ne konkuti.
Mr. Domelevo, it almost seems as though there was a concerted effort by a lot of you who manned the anti-corruption or anti-graft agencies. And I'd like to read to you what Mr. MartinAmidu put out in a press statement, I think a day or two before the elections. In fact, he followed up with a video release on social media. And this is what he said, and I quote, "John Dramani Mahama is not a saint, but he's nobody's poodle. He has the experience as a former president to audit the mess of the Nana Akuffo Addo Bawumia government. I have had problems with John Dramani Mahama in the past, which are documented on my website. The constitutional situation on our hands, however, demands pragmatism to ensure probity and accountability after an 8-year tenure of government. We need a candidate who can command a sizable parliamentary representation to actualize an audit of the previous government. John Dramani Mahama, whose audit Nana Addo Akuffo fears, ought to be the best bet for the integrity of the 1992 Constitution in our present circumstances. The 1992 Constitution does not enshrine dynasty or inheritance by chronism. That is why the electorate should aim for a change in government on December 7, 2024 to defend and preserve the Constitution of our Fourth Republic. Ghana must always come first." MartinAmidu, 3rd December 2024. It almost seems as though what he wished for, he got it.
And I think that was all of us, our prayers, actually. And it is very interesting when at times people speak without thinking that people can see or read through the lines. When you are saying that someone, for instance, or His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has only 4 years, first and foremost, nobody is ever appointed into office for 8 years. So all presidents are elected for only 4 years. And didn't other presidents have the same situation or the same opportunity whereby they were going to seek renewal of their mandate, but they messed up? Did Nana Addo not have 4 years at the end of 2020? Hello. And did he not mess up? Yes. And it is only in Ghana where a vice president, no person not less than the vice president, will say that I have no mandate, but takes all credit for things that are funded from the same budget. And where the things fail, he says, no, I am just listen. But let's put that behind us. The good thing is that the Ghanaian has spoken. The people of Ghana have spoken. And they have given mandate to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. I hope and pray that he doesn't do anything that will make Ghanaians send them back into opposition. Because I am very sure that the confidence reposed in them by Ghanaians, if abused, will be met with a worse situation than what we saw on this 7th December election. And I have never seen patriotism in Ghana like this 7th December election. On that very day, at around 12 o'clock, I was at the airport. Just after voting, I was traveling. And I saw a lot of Ghanaians. And I'm like, hey, my friend, you didn't vote. All of them. Immediately you say you didn't vote, you show your finger to you. So almost all the people who were traveling outside the country made sure they voted before traveling. So you ask, what made you just to rush to the pool and vote before you said we want change? And I think nobody has had this better than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And he better performs. Else he's sending his party out of government. And I think he would not like to do that. Thank you.
I mean, one of the things MartinAmidu talked about or asked for was a candidate who can command a sizable parliamentary representation to actualize an audit of the previous government. And he got that. But I don't think we all anticipated that. 2/3 majority?
Well, I was actually also praying fervently for majority in parliament. But 2/3, or even it seems it's more than 2/3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Definitely, if Nanado and his team will do some introspection, they will realize that they have offended Ghanaians. Because I can't phantom a situation where Ghanaians gave him a good margin in 2016. And after the term, the second term of his office, humiliated him this way. It tells a story. You don't need a court to pronounce on this. You don't need a soothsayer or a prophet to tell you this. You may have to review it yourself and ask, what did we do? And I'm happy I hear some of the NPP communicators nailing it, that the leadership was not the best. Even when they drew attention themselves to say, no, things are not going well. You remember on one of the TV programs, I was pushed and asked if I wanted changes or people should be removed. Who are the people I recommend? I also said Ken Ofori-Atta has to go because his presence does not give confidence to the economy. And the leader of the Bank of Ghana should go. Because in marketing or in a market economy, it's the confidence. It's a matter of trust. If people doubt you, they are not going to patronize your goods. So it is good to change the leadership, so to give some confidence to the system. But all this advice and etc. did not go well with the president, or he didn't hear them, or he just didn't care. As a result, the verdict has come. So let's put what has happened behind us, because we have a lot of work ahead to do. Let us all contribute as Ghanaians to ensure that we help the new administration to govern the country and govern it well.
Right. I'll come back to you. Right. I'll come back to you.
Not out of fear or favor, no, but doing the right thing.
Right. I'll come back to you. Mr. Chumbafo, why on earth would MartinAmidu describe Dr. Bawumia as a poodle of Akuffo and not trust that he will be able to, audit,
You see, when people like Dr. Bawumia and Mr. Yadomelovo and others talk, people like me don't need to say anything. Because as for me, everybody knows where I have stood on Akuffo since time immemorial. But you should hear the people who have worked with him. Mr. MartinAmidu described Akuffo as the mother serpent of corruption. This is a man that Akuffo himself had carried and made the first OSP. When he was working, he frustrated him. MartinAmidu has put all the things that when the president himself asked the OSP to be corrupt. Mr. Yadomelovo is citing the same thing. Across board, talk to people they have worked with, and they will tell you that the Akuffo himself was at the helm of the corruption. And that is the reason why, if you try to fight it, they came after you and victimized you personally. So, if you want to talk about people like Ken Ofori-Atta, you have to have a special show. Clear the room, and dedicate 24 hours to Kano.
Oh, come of it. Come of it, Mr. Chuba.
This is a finance minister.
Come of it.
Hold on. This is a finance minister, and there's an auditor here. You tell you, this is a finance minister who owned an investment bank. Huh? Which investment bank was collecting loans on behalf of the government and taking commissions. The finance minister.
But they've always done that. He has
always done what?
Has always done that.
In this country.
As transaction advisors.
In this country. Please, let me stop and let Mr. Domelovo explain conflict of interest to you. Please, let me stop. Let him explain it to you.
Mr. Domelovo, look, Chumbafo says he's ceding to you.
Okay. Do you know that in our practice, for instance, as accountant, even if I am your auditor, and the relationship between you and myself changes, such that you become maybe a brother-in-law or a wife or something of that nature, it is not acceptable for me to continue to audit you. Because the saying is as simple as this: the auditor must not only be independent, but must be seen as independent. Did you see Ken and data bank as independent? So that's the issue I think my friend or my brother was explaining. Conflict of interest is not.
Yo, in some of the Gusua air coso and I say unsubscribe, subscribe, Jumedia no share, Nema Afofro and so answer and Kabian. Please click on the notification bell no send a bear. Yeah, the any news be out to platform so I want to walk no the air call and the air, but no family you know. A year Domlevo egg Gusua or din some do no air the air to Jana or din chi mudu na the air to Jana on how abysmal performance are NPP4 or perform during their governance under a year or Mampani a year Akuffo Addo Yanko Nenkonkuti.
Not taken seriously in Ghana, to be honest with you. And many times it surprises me because I worked for an international financial institution, the World Bank, where even if you are employed, your cousins, your nephews, your aunties, your uncles, the nibblings and the siblings, etc., none of them can also be employed. But in Ghana, we take it lightly. You say, oh, in fact, somebody was even justified, I think it's garbage, that we have so many educated people in our family. So it's not for no fault of ours. And I say, my goodness, I'm sure the school was built for only your family. No other family in the country has educated people. But the truth of the matter is that these are public offices. We are talking about the national ache. Sharing it requires that the distribution must be equitable across the board. That is the reason why one family should not have so many people in government, because we have so many families in the country. So I agree with his position. We definitely have to pass the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which has been on the drawing table for too long. And I'm sure if that bill is passed and passed well, it will control some of these things. Thank you.
Mr. Mahama says he's ready to do with 60 ministers. We know that with this overwhelming victory, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him for appointments. He's got to elect some ministers from Parliament. I mean, people like Fifi, what's his name? Mr. Chumbafo says he's ready to be to mop the floor if he's asked to. How is he going to deal with all this pressure?
60 ministers is a lot, to be honest with you. From time immemorial, I personally have not ever agreed that we should have more than 30 ministers. Look at countries which are about 3 times, 4 times our size and the number of ministers they have. What has eluded us in governance in Ghana is that we are using ministries to do operational work. A ministry is not for operational work. You will find a road minister on the road awarding contract and directing people. No. There are departments under the ministry who is supposed to do that. That's why we don't need so many ministries. If you go into some countries, What we have as Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, etc., are put together as Ministry of Public Services. And then there's a Department of Health, Department of Agri, Department of that. So we don't need so many ministers, because as for ministry, its job is to formulate policy, supervise, and monitor.
We've had railways, roads, and transport.
Thank you.
And aviation.
Thank you. Why do we have that? Why do we need a railway different from road and transport? And we don't need that. Some countries you go, all you find is Ministry of Infrastructure, and you will find a lot of water, electricity, etc., etc. They are all put together. So that's why I say that we need to cut down on the fruitless and wasteful spending that has bedeviled our country by the creation of so many ministries. So if he says he's going to leave under 60, to appoint less than 60 or up to 60 ministers, I don't doubt it at all. If I were he, I would have made do less. Pressure will come. In fact, even if he wants to appoint 200 ministers, there will be still other people who will be demanding position, who will not be ministers. So that is no excuse. There are several positions and several jobs. And of course, what is even better than creating an economy where the private sector thrives, so everybody has got something to do for him or herself, instead of trying to work for government. Thank you.
You talked about the need to allow, agencies and departments to work. One of the things that we've continuously talked about is efficiency in our local governance system. And in dealing with that, many have talked about the possible election of MMDCEs. I mean, that these positions should not be left to, the president to make an appointments, DCEs, MCs, and all that, who are accountable to no other person but the president. And in this light, we saw Nana Akuffo try to do this. Unfortunately, it was stampeded by Parliament. Is that something you'd like to see John Mahama do?
Yes and no. In principle, I agree that district chief executives should be appointed by the people so that they are accountable to the people after their term of office. But before we do that, in fact, Nana Addo, from my point of view, put the cart before the horse. Before you do that, there must be what we call fiscal decentralization. The national budget should be divided into district, regions, and national, such that the budget for each district is clearly indicated or stated in the budget or the budget appropriation act, in the appropriation act. So we know that X amount is going to a Sujamai district, X amount is going to Afram Place, X amount is going to Boku, etc. If you do that, and then you let the district or the people appoint the district chief executive, then they have resources to run the district. But when you are holding all the district, all the finances in the country, I normally joke to say that the fiscal decentralization in Ghana is within 2 kilometers square in Accra, from the presidency to the Ministry of Finance. That's the end of the fiscal decentralization. When all the monies are being held by sector ministers who do not have any geographical authority, the only person who has a geographical mandate, apart from the president, is a regional minister. And below him or her is a district chief executive who also have a geographical authority. These are the people to whom the money should be allocated. If our budget, what they refer to as composite budgeting, if our budget was supposed to be a composite budget, where we can have a regional budget, a district budget, encompassing the health, education, agri, etc., all in there, then the total resource envelope appropriated by law to the district is clear. Then you let the people appoint who should manage their money for them. But until we do that, I think Nanado was putting the cart before the horse. And when it failed, I jubilated, actually. I was very happy. Because, it was a trap. Given the current situation, if you appoint a district chief executive, the central government can decide to deny you any resource. But they can just run your budget to zero, give you nothing. Remember, you know that even District Assembly Common Fund is administered in Accra. It is almost all consumed from the center, not at the district level. So they will use that to remove you from office, because your people will say, well, if we continue keeping you in office, you will not bring us anything. So then they will get a party person who will contest the election to win so that they can give the resources. It will be a means by which a political party can capture the districts, which I think should not be the case. So if we actually do the fiscal decentralization with what we refer to as the composite budgeting, we can see in the national budget, each district's budget, how much is going there for human resource, how much is going there for roads, how much is going there for health, how much is going for this one. And this is under the care of the district chief executive, who is supervised by the regional minister. You will see that if this is done, then it makes sense that we can reduce the sector ministries to a very small number, because they will not be involved in operational work. They will not be there awarding contracts. No, that is none of their business. Thank you.
Mr. Domelevo, I've got to say a big thank you to you. We do appreciate your time here on Election Command Center, and I'm sure we will talk to you in the coming days. Do have a great day.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yo, Jumedie no pompon so nyina ha ane de Jumedie no ABC ade amamo. O subscribe ya subscribe, like Jumedie and share nema afofro enso. Ensa enkabi and kindly Mestre say wadwin chebi afasha under the comment section na efa maye eja yede yekotia na yede abremo and post elections and sama ekoso and yeje mu ediguo edemamo stories in the dodo na ho no ma yede bebremo me sure stay tuned na story be yede bebe bia jo pepa ne fashe efa maye makramo.